Friends, very happy evening to all of you. I welcome you all to an interesting CP meeting on evaluation of managed services and intelligent automation, for which we have two beloved speakers joining from Hyderabad, Shri Balasubramaniam Chandran and Shri Abhishek Kishore Gupta. In fact, most of the time, whenever there have been topics, it is always for the CAs in practice, where the topics are kind of helpful for them. So we thought as well every month minimum 1 or 2 meetings we'll have with focusing members in industry as well. So today we have two very eminent and experienced speakers who will share their thoughts. And before we go into the subject proper, I will request Abhishek Murli to introduce our both the speakers and then we take things forward. Abhishek, over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. A very warm good afternoon to all the participants who have joined in today. Good afternoon to our dynamic chairman of SIRC, CA Dungachan Jain, live from Madurai. Our speakers, CA Balasubramaniam, live from Hyderabad, and the other speaker, Shri Abhishek Kishore Gupta, live from Bangalore. And I think it's fair to say all of us here on the screen today, we are in very rainy conditions. Even in Chennai, there is heavy rain. I understand Bangalore is flooded. Hyderabad, we have all been seeing the WhatsApp videos, and I hope they're getting better. Madurai also facing heavy rains. So, but this rains are maybe cooling down the tensions that you had from the tax audit and your GST audit. If you have been following the updates, just half an hour back, the extension was announced. So now you can all, in a very relaxed manner, you can enjoy the festivities. And today's program is a very well thought out program. In fact, this will benefit not only our practicing members, but members in industry as well. And this is the future. As Chairman rightly said, he is a digital man, and he identified some excellent speakers to touch upon these topics, who I have now the privilege of introducing. I'll first introduce CA Balasubramaniam Chandran, also known as Bala Chandran. He is a qualified chartered accountant with more than 25 years experience across accounting, auditing, banking and capital markets, digital and outsourcing operations. He spent more than 16 years outside of India, working in some of the biggest global corporates across Middle East, Caribbean, the United Kingdom, and worked with KPMG, JP Morgan and Chase and Ernst & Young. He came back to India in 2011 and he joined Accenture and was leading the finance and accounting practice, the digital operations practice and network managed services. He joined KPMG in 2019 and he leads the managed services practices across India. He is specifically known for adopting innovations and finding cost-effective solutions for complex issues and leveraging the emerging technologies to uncover business opportunities, and his diverse experience in emerging technologies and transformation is something which he is really famous for. So thank you so much, sir, for accepting our invitation to join here as a speaker today. I will now introduce. Thank you, sir. I'll now introduce CA Abhishek. He is a partner and head of the GCC market practice of KPMG, and he is an open innovation and emerging tech evangelist. He has deep functional and technical expertise across sectors and geographies. He is known for strategizing and leading complex global multi-stakeholder technology initiatives. He is known for adopting emerging technologies to uncover business opportunities and to develop strategies to improve product, services, operations, and customer experience. He's also a very passionate speaker. He speaks on various topics across several events, conferences, and has also published several articles, videos, and blogs. So he's developed a strong innovation ecosystems, which allows him to collaborate with different startup forums and academia to come up with fast, fail-safe design thinking workshops and adopt agile ways of innovation. As a practice lead, he understands the importance of building the right skills and capability and has played a very key role in developing the organizational framework, providing effective coaching, and creating an environment of continuous learning. I think he's the right person to join us again in the CPE program. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation, Abhishek ji, and we're looking forward to both of your sessions today. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhishek. Thanks.
Thank you. So we'll get started. So you can all see my screen.
Yes, Bala, I can see it.
Yeah, can you all see my screen?
Yes, it's visible. You can go ahead.
I assume Yes.
Yes, 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 sir.
I think you have to put under the display
So,
full mode
I'm
actually.
not able to hear you both.
Can you hear us
Bala,
now,
I
sir?
think you'll have to go on full screen. You are right now on the screen share. So display setting, if you can change. Right now it's on the speaker mode view.
In the display settings, you can change it. Under the display settings,
Can you hear me?
He is unable to hear
Yes,
us.
yes, we can.
He is unable to hear us.
Baluji, are we audible to you? Baluji?
No, so maybe it's. I'll just give him a call.
Hmm.
You call him
So I
himself and
think-
just tell him it is speaker mode. If you can shift it to full mode, that will be
Yes,
nice.
I'm giving him. I'm giving him a call.
Yeah, it's coming now.
Yeah, you can just call.
You're able to hear me now?
We
Yes.
can hear you, sir. Can you hear us?
Yeah,
Yeah, I am now. I'm able to now.
Okay, great, great,
Fine.
good.
So if that's the case, then sort of maybe I'll just start the session. You're able to see my screen, I'm assuming. Excellent.
yeah. If you can, Baluji, if you can change the display settings to full mode.
One second.
Go
So
on
there
the
is a
top, Bala.
display settings on the top.
Yeah.
Hide presenter view.
Hide presenter view. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay,
That's it.
cool. Sorry for the initial technology glitch. So quite pleasure to be here talking to you all. So the topic sort of it's a quite interesting topic. It's probably applicable both to sort of practicing chartered accountants as well as to the industry. It has got more relevance in terms of what's currently happening, and with COVID, it actually has amplified in terms of the managed services and the intelligent automation that needs to be sort of tagged along with it. So as you probably sort of see, most of the companies and most of the businesses felt that sort of digital transformation is years away. It's not going to sort of impact anytime soon. And that's been the prerogative of most of the founders, promoters, and Indian corporates, and to a larger extent, even the international businesses. And nobody was foreseeing the COVID. Nobody was actually prepared for a pandemic like this. So therefore, it the BCP, the business continuity programs, or the disaster recovery they were trying to do on a test case basis. And the fact that sort of some of the companies were able to do that during the Chennai floods or during some of the external events in the international world, be it the New Zealand massacre or is it a natural disaster, they were all short-lived in the sense that sort of the impact was about 3 or 4 days, so therefore the business was able to withstand and try to do the disaster recovery. Pandemic was something, the COVID-19 was something sort of which was not anticipated, and it took us almost everyone by surprise. And when the work from home got announced, people were scrambling to sort of figure out how we are going to sort of work, how we enable, because now what has happened is, whilst the people workforce working it all together in a organization no longer sort of existed almost overnight when the lockdown sort of got announced. So then it became a question of sort of how do you operate? How do you get to a BAU mode? How do you sort of ensure? Because most of the companies were struggling to sort of understand how am I going to continue. But interestingly, what we've seen is that sort of the business actually was quite resilient to accept and adapt technologies. And now what has happened is that we've done several, as part of the KPMG, we've done several sort of surveys with the CEOs, the CFOs of the organization, the CXOs including. And interestingly, sort of we found that sort of 68% of the CEOs believe that moving too slow can only lead to obsolescence. So which is again not a earth-shattering finding, but this only sort of reinforces the fact that sort of trying to defer things, trying to sort of push things out because of budgetary constraints, because of feeling that okay, digital, I'm not a digital company, I'm actually a trading company, or I'm actually in a manufacturing company. For me, digital is not required. Is something sort of which probably doesn't sort of cater well today's environment, and probably when the economy recovers and sort of business comes back to BAU, it's going to be a whole new world, and as they call it, as the new normal. And interestingly, we also sort of see that from a speed and growth perspective, 76% of the CEOs or saying that the ability to challenge and disrupt the business is going to be the new norm. So which basically means that the workforce of the future is going to start now, and which means that the question is that do we have the right level of workforce? Do they have the right capabilities to sort of take it to the next level? The traditional approach is going to be a huge hindrance as things are going to come back to BAU when the pandemic dies and sort of the business is coming back to sort of BAU. What is more relevant or important to sort of this context is to sort of bring that sort of digital transformation. When we talk about digital, it's not just about doing something in a marketing space or doing something in from a ERP space. So what actually digitizing technically means is to sort of bring about the entire business together and leveraging the technology. So in simple terms, you need to sweat the technology to get the best of the technology so that the humans actually can do what they should be doing. I think that is what is taking prominence, and that's what you're going to sort of see as you sort of go through the session. And we have certain interesting facts and sort of what we are seeing as a trends, which will sort of guide you in terms of what's happening and what are the areas where the companies are prioritizing. And when we are having the conversations with the CEOs or the boards or the audit committees, there's always a constant conversation about I want to be future ready in terms of my business. So another interesting sort of the survey findings from our sort of global pulse survey is also that sort of it's going to be again, it's not going to be a BAU or suddenly when the pandemic disappears, because some of the business have taken a lot of beating. So there's going to be certain businesses that are going to do a bit of a hard reset. Some of them are actually surging because the pandemic has actually given them a sounding board to sort of launch themselves to the future. And some of them are actually sitting and trying to sort of transform in order to re-emerge into a big business. And there are certain categories of business which are actually trying to modify to the requirement. So trying to sort of change the way they are actually working in order to meet the customer experience or journeys. As you probably see in the hard reset, like it's again things that were in the transportation side of things, be it sort of the hotels, restaurants, pretty much on the entertainment as well as in terms of brick and mortar retail, have taken a significant beating. So these are the industries that's going to take a long time to sort of recover, and people are working towards it because we also sort of quite interested to sort of see how they are going to sort of reshape and how they're going to reboot themselves to sort of to be relevant in the business. And the surge, obviously no sort of brainer, online retail seems to be picking up quite well, and I think probably this is something which now, as you probably see in the recent newspapers, where Amazon, Relevance, almost every big names you can think of are jumping into the retail, because the retail is going to be a future. It's going to be a complete disruptor as we sort of move on. Asset management, life cycle, life sciences and pharma, and obviously because of the COVID, the life sciences and pharma has taken a lot of attraction, and these businesses are going to sort of grow further because this is not going to be end of all pandemics. We do not know what is going to come, so therefore this is going to be a constant. And people awareness towards health is also transforming the business completely. So which means that when the reset button is done and we have rebooted to the BAU model, we're going to see a lot of change in terms of the lifestyle, the healthy habits that's going to sort of come in, because people are going to be sort of more aware about and being sort of health conscious to the future. And there are a lot of companies who are going to sort of transform, like the companies like insurance companies, etc., which are going to sort of do a complete sort of rethinking in terms of how they need to be sort of operating in this environment and to the future, because the need for insurance will probably change. And there are not just about the insurance, there are other sectors which are going to sort of have a bit of a thinking to transform themselves to be more relevant. Otherwise, they become more of a commodity business and the growth might be slightly hindered. And as you probably see, banking, consumer goods, agriculture, and transportation are going to do a modified BAU. So obviously, with all the transportation, etc., sort of being opened up, and we are seeing the new way of 50% occupancies in transportations, the way in which sort of touchless operations or contactless operations are happening, including the banking world, which is embracing the digital. So this all is going to sort of happen, and as you see, what's the high impact and the low impact to the overall scheme of things, it's going to be a new world. Very simple message. So what has happened to this one? So what is the relevance of managed services? What's the relevance of what we just sort of spoke about, sort of the changing sort of landscape? And the question then becomes sort of, are we ready for the challenges? And why the managed services is suddenly becoming a priority to sort of most of the business? if you originally see the evolution of managed services, because it used to be traditionally called as an outsourcing in its early form. But what has happened is that things have started sort of moving away, because the outsourcing was created by the banking industry. So they're the pioneers or the father of outsourcing. When the banks were able to do that outsourcing, the rest of the industries thought about, why can't we do this? Because there is a lot of cost arbitrage. That's something which we can probably take it over. So therefore, the model was to sort of move away from onshore to a nearshore, and then quickly evolved that, okay, fine, I don't have to be in a nearshore. Actually, I can actually move down to a place where I can actually get more talent. And if I can be nearshore, I can also be in offshore. And that's how the whole concept sort of started in the early 90s. And as it sort of blossomed and started to sort of crawl and move forward, primary focus has been towards reaping the benefits of cost savings. So it was primarily done to sort of create a labor arbitrage, and most of the Western companies are the first pioneers to sort of move on back of the banking industry. And that's how the whole thing sort of started. And then as it sort of crawled and to start to sort of walk to the early 2000s, the industry started to sort of focus more in terms of, okay, fine, I now moved most of my operations. And again, the type of operations that got moved were traditional type of operations, which were primarily in enabled functions such as finance and accounting, HR, procurement. So typical traditional, what I call it as a enabled functions for corporates or the early movers in terms of outsourcing. And as they sort of moved, started to gain the cost arbitrage, what they were also seeing is an impact to the business in terms of not able to sort of deliver to what they were able to do. They had to incur additional costs, they had to incur additional audit spend in order to sort of control, because it was quite new to the offshore destinations like India, China, Philippines, etc., where they were struggling to sort of cope with the arrival of the new businesses and trying to get the talent ready for the operations. And therefore, the focus moved away from cost arbitrage to operation excellence. So primary thing is to sort of bring the discipline to the operation. Let's industrialize the operation. Let's try to sort of go to a desktop procedures or SOPs. Let's focus on primary on these things. Get the operation excellence, business excellence inbuilt into the operation so that we are able to track. And again, net result was trying to sort of focus more towards operational metrics, tactical operation, and getting the discipline. And by sort of 2005, 2006, they were able to master the stability of these kind of operations. Then they realized, actually, you know what, I've got the cost savings. Now I've got the feel of running the operations offshore, and I'm able to now bring in sort of leveraging whatever technology we have at that point in time. We're able to bring in a bit of a discipline in the operation, and we have a mechanism to track these operations. The next question that becomes was that I'm not seeing any value add coming from it, because maybe I'm probably better off keeping all these functions internally so that I can run these things with much better control, even though I might be slightly higher, but actually the value that comes out of the business could be a lot better. And the industrialization also had its own drawback, in the sense that people were trained to do invoice processing, and they completely forgot that actually they're doing something called an AP as a finance and accounting function. People completely forgot that they're part of finance ecosystem, and they were not able to contribute value to the finance. People were more specialized to sort of focus on how do I address urgent invoices, or how do I do a three-way match in terms of clearing the AP invoices. It became a lot more tactical in nature still from a delivery standpoint. And now, as we sort of step into 2020, and thanks to the COVID, now the entire spectrum has changed. And as you saw from the Pulse survey, the concept has now moved away from, I don't no longer need a tactical operation. I don't think I enjoy running these operations myself. I'm probably better off actually trying to have professionals involved who can actually run, and this could be their bread and butter, because certainly these are not things that I want to focus on. And that's how sort of started to sort of move away, because there is a lot of talent availability, a lot of operational efficiencies has been achieved. Focus is to now to focus on better talent retention and try to bring in the automation. The automation that was brought in were all primarily point solutions, which means that if I am doing it a roundabout sort of way, how do I sort of take the pain away and get the automation come into play, which can ease or minimize the impact on the resources who are actually processing the transaction. It did not see through how would this automation impact the customer journey, how would it impact delivering business insights or outcomes or value to the business. So therefore, there was still a mismatch in terms of the expectation versus what they were actually getting out of the whole thing. And the concept of outsourcing became operations, and now sort of it's more or less sort of taking a new form of managed services. The reason being that companies or corporates or the business are looking for parties, third parties, who can actually business partner with them, not just as a mere vendor who can actually provide them with the transactional services. And if you see where we stand today, so now, okay, fine, we have seen the evolution, we have seen sort of how it moved away from sort of cost arbitrage to a more demanding business outcomes or business insight-led requirements. Have things progressed? Have I sort of got rid of all the challenges I've been sort of facing today? The answer is still no. And as you probably see here today, at 2020, we're still at a starting point. We still have a significant amount of points of failures, whether it is sort of your system, because companies have been building systems after systems. So what has happened is that they built a lot of legacy tools, a lot of legacy technologies, which are becoming a burden to the organization. So the question that is now being sort of discussed is, do I need these kind of systems? Do I need to run on so many stuff? How do I move myself to a cloud-based operations? How can I sort of bring in the mobility into the factor so that I can actually, at a pinch of an hour, by just flick of a button, I can actually see all my data real time? How do I focus in terms of preparation of reports? Am I actually running around to get the reports multiple times? I'm actually making queries and making the team run around to sort of do several rounds of report making. Am I getting the right insights? Because people are still struggling between analysis and analytics. So the question is that, do I focus on analytics? Do I need to look at the business insights? Because we are sitting on a significant amount of data, and the data needs to be rightly interpreted to understand what the data is trying to sort of tell to the business. And if that interpretation is made right, the business will move away from being descriptive to becoming more predictive. The question is predictive enough? The answer is probably not, because predictive is good because it will probably tell you a trend, but it's not going to give you everything. So the question is that, can I move away from predictive to the prescriptive? I think that is the future. So if I'm looking at the future of any operations, it doesn't matter whether it is finance and accounting, whether it is HR, whether it is customer support, whether it is order management, supply chain, every aspect of the business. The point is, am I being future ready for this? Or am I sort of still going to sort of have multiple points of failures despite investing so many dollars on technologies and process and operation excellence? Given that the impact is significant and huge, it all depends in terms of like what they want to sort of do. So what are we seeing from all these things? There are sort of 8 trends that is emerging, and these 8 trends are going to shape the future of how the business is going to be run tomorrow. The trend number 1 is all about touchless by design. So which means that I want the humans to do what they do best. I want every bit of operation to be done by technology. And there are technology that is available now and ready for providing the future value. We'll cover that as the second part of the session on the intelligent automation, but that's the focus. So which means that it means digital transformation, which means I want to bring in upstream as well as downstream. Not just about putting these technologies into the downstream to make the life of the enable function easier. It's about, can I go completely digital, therefore I don't have to do it. You probably would be seeing some of this again, banking industry taking a pioneer or a leadership position in terms of going touchless by design. Today, you can open an account in 15 minutes. And you can do KYC through video KYCs. You don't even have to be present. And the documents can be sort of all digitized. So I can send all the documents, I can sort of get bank loans, I can get any other banking transaction that I can do just without sort of any touch points. So I can do everything through technology driven. So what happens is, once it's all becoming technology driven, whether it is your customer order, whether your channels, whether your marketing spends, whether it is your human resources spends, whatever be the aspect of the business, it needs to be sort of touchless by design. That means that you have to see the process more holistically as opposed to looking at the process from a process perspective. Because the more you see process as a process, you tend to have a tendency to create more point solution as opposed to end-to-end solution. The second trend that sort of you're seeing is the founders, the promoters, they want significant amount of outcomes. analytics, and insights. We talked about descriptive. Today, we are able to have proper MIS in place. People are able to generate the right MIS that is being sent to boards, that's being sent to sales, that's being sent to every part of the business who has a demand for data. So there's going to be a lot of data, and as you might be probably reading, data is going to be the new oil. So if data is going to be the new oil, the question is that sort of, okay, I have far too much of data. Am I trying to capture all the right data? Or these data relevant? Maybe I started off collecting this data because of my legacy. The question is, do the data that I'm collecting, is it relevant? Is the data that I want to, I really want, but maybe I'm failing to collect those data? So these are the questions that people are now today asking, with a lot of digital things coming in, thanks to Googles and the Facebooks and the Amazons and the Apples. People have understood now. So I can actually track your pattern of spend. I can track where you're actually spending your sort of credit cards. I can even track you where your movements are. Almost everyone have today, we all have a smartphones. And as part of the overall exercise, do you know that sort of almost every operating system that's sort of running, whether it's Google, whether it's Apple, Android or iOS, they track every movement of you without knowing who you are, but you are actually identified through a specific MAC ID. Through that, we know whether you are traveling by car, whether you are traveling, are you going by walk, are you running? I can even know sort of what you're trying to do, where you are spending your time, and trying to integrate the data. For example, you're in a location for 10 minutes and you're using your credit card. There's a financial transaction happening, which means I'm able to understand, based on this location, you are in a shop and you are spending. I know what type of a shop you are in because of the maps. And I know that you have now transacted because there's a payment gateway recording your payment transaction. Now I know that, okay, this individual has a tendency to buy X. So as I see your spending patterns, whether you're doing online shopping, whether you're doing things, I can collect the data and I can provide these kind of prescriptive data to the corporates for them to rethink on the growth strategies. So that's becoming a big trend today. And that's exactly what people are wanting. I don't want a finance and accounting function just to merely record the books, give me a reports and try to get me the audited statements. Whilst these are important compliance stuff, the question is that, can my finance department give me enough insights for me to take the right decisions? To give you a simple example, looking at sort of if I take AP as an example, am I actually having far too many vendors? Can I rationalize my vendors? Or the terms that I'm doing with each of these vendors, can I rationalize the terms of these vendors? Will those kind of rationalization help me improve my working capital? So this is how the business insight is required today from the business. That's the demand, and that's the future. So question is moving from, as I said, descriptive to predictive to prescriptive. How can we sort of move towards it? And there's going to be a huge demand, both in terms of talent and both in terms of skill set that sort of people are able to bring to the table. Ability to read through the data and meaningfully interpret the data. The trend 3 is about, again, no surprise, primarily it's all about regulatory and compliance. It's going to become more and more controlled. As you probably now see that sort of, including the digital space, now the government is sort of stepping in, your Facebook or your sort of social media, everything sort of is going to be controlled. Obviously, people have abused it, and there is going to be a lot more compliances as the pandemic has technically washed off a lot of companies. Therefore, people are worried about misuse or abuse of the compliance system. So therefore, more and more governance is going to come in and more sort of time needs to be spent. The question is that, how do I stay ahead of this and reduce the cost of compliance? Because nobody wants to brush with compliance purely because of reputational issue and also the cost of compliance. Trend 4, so we talked about new capabilities, because trend 1 and trend 2 has an impact in terms of the future workforce. And we're also seeing the impact of the future workforce. How do I sort of bring about the workforce? How do I bring about the change? So question is that it's going to be more, whilst technology driven is going to be a mandate. The question is my workforce really capable to deliver to the future? And now what more and more organizations are starting to sort of realize is that maybe the technology is going faster than what we are actually anticipating it. Unfortunately, it is the humans who are slowing things down. And they don't seem to, while we have plenty of resources available, the employability of these resources is becoming a bigger question today to most of the business community. So the question is, how do I focus? How do I reskill my people? Because if it's more technology going to come in, Is it going to be a question of unemployment? The answer is probably not. There might be a bit of an unemployment, but the question is, how do I make sure that I reskill them so that they become more relevant to the future and they can do what they do best? Internal governance is also emerging as a key area. So what is the interesting find sort of we are able to sort of get here is, whilst all along the mindset of the Indian community or the Indian business community and the promoters and the founders and including the corporates was that I am working in the same labor market as the outsourcing companies are doing it. I have access to the same talent pool. I have access to the same technology, and everything is being sort of built in India. So therefore, why should I actually give away control of my operations? Because people have the tendency to keep things under wraps. So should I actually be giving it away to somebody else? Why should I do all those things? I am probably better off keeping everything under my wrap. And now what has happened is, I think maybe thanks to COVID, it is only amplified and accelerated. Now the questions that they're asking is, what do I actually enjoy by controlling all these things? Do I actually really have to control all my business functions? Do I need to actually typically run my operations? Why can't I actually give away the operation so that I can focus on what matters most to me, which is growth and strategy? So let me focus on what I do. If I am in a steel manufacturing, I need to sort of see, how do I sell steel? How do I expand my footprint globally? How do I sort of get more customers? How do I improve my EBITDA? These are my focuses, not controlling my finance team, not controlling my regulatory, not controlling my compliance, or not controlling my HR or a technology. So therefore, interestingly, in the last sort of 6 months, I can tell you from my experience, almost every day I'm at least meeting 2 to 3 promoters and founders, both in the startups phase, in the pre-revenue phase, as well as more matured and listed corporates as well, where the board is asking us to sort of come back and say, like, I don't want to actually have so many people in the organization. I want to be mean, light, and I want to focus on what matters most to me. Can I actually give it away to someone who can run this on an end-to-end, which means that someone can run this on a managed services, take on the accountability, responsibility to be my extended arm of finance and accounting, or HR, or procurement, or supply chain, or customer support, whatever could be the operations we are talking about. Trend 6 is all about innovation and transformation, because it's not just about doing the same thing for less. And I think the idea of doing the same mess for less is gone. So it's not about cost all the time. It's about bringing in that sort of innovation, bringing that sort of transformation. Can I sort of look at the entire end-to-end process? Can I redo the way I'm actually doing business today? And with significant improvement in terms of, like, for example, the restaurants moving away from restaurants to home. Thanks to Swiggy, thanks to Zomatos, thanks to the technology, we've now sort of moved away from sort of restaurant being moved to home. So that's a complete transformation of business. Similarly, brick and mortar retail to an online retail. So therefore, we have brought the shopping to home. We are bringing now sort of entertainment to home, thanks to Netflix, Prime Videos, and so many sort of online platforms, OTTs. So business has actually moved. Now healthcare is moving home. Now you have medical consultation happening through video calls. So therefore, it is now always the customer. So the question is, I need to be transformative, otherwise I'm going to sort of fall out. What happened to Nokia? What happened to BlackBerry? It can happen to anybody for that matter. Whether it is Google or Apple, it doesn't matter. Everybody is going to sort of face it, because that's a constant discussion. Because I can tell you, sort of from my experience, we do sort of sit in a lot of sort of Google discussions. A company like Google, which is sort of highly innovative culture, they also struggle at times, because they're questioning now, what happens to the search engine? How many times today you go and to Google and search? It's coming down. It's a worry that maybe the search engine will go away. The reason is the apps have taken it over. It's transformation. While the search engine is not going to disappear completely, it's going to be the back end of the overall transformation. What you see in the front is that you will no longer see the search engine. You will probably see that app giving you the results what you want. It's more specific to your need, more customized to sort of what you want, and that's how sort of it needs to be. And that's the trend 6 sort of you're seeing that it's going to catch up and move faster. Trend 7, cost optimization. Of course, whilst I talked about cost is not a factor there. Now, when I say cost is not a factor, it's not about doing it less all the time. It's about optimization, because now business is more frugal in terms of spending, because they always want to be prepared for the future and uncertainties. So while cost optimization is an agenda, it's not at the cost of quality. So therefore, quality still takes a priority over cost. But again, business are looking to sort of improve EBITDA, so therefore they're all looking at various avenues in terms of cost of acquiring a customer, cost of delivering a service to a customer. Everything is sort of monitored to ensure that it is actually optimized and the quality is never compromised from that perspective. Last but not least is the scalable operation. Everyone with all the listing norms being sort of modified, allowing now Indian companies to list directly in international markets. So all those things happening, almost every promoter, every business is thinking about sort of a global presence. Maybe it's a time as the government is sort of planning for the future. It's maybe the time has probably come for India to be sort of a lot more global, and Indians have started creating global corporates. The question is that, are we ready to sort of scale our operations and trying to stay on the top quartile of the industry leading practices to dominate the global world-class operations? So these are the 8 trends we are seeing sort of how the evolutions are happening from a managed services or operation perspective. So in order to sort of cope with the trends, the question that you need to probably ask yourself is that understanding where you want to stand, that's going to sort of change the whole game for you. So if we try to sort of understand all these trends, try to bucketize this into a maturity framework, we see that sort of it all falls into the 4 sort of buckets in which the sort of the maturity of the business is going to sort of sit in. Either you want to be a basic one, fragmented all over the place, or you want to be more standardized, whilst you have brought in a bit of a discipline, but you have the happiness of controlling everything and running this as part of a centralized operation, or achieving and patting your back to say, okay, fine, I've created a very optimized delivery, and therefore I get the pride of sort of running this operation. I have the pride of running and controlling this operation by virtue of optimizing it. Or do I have to be future ready? So if I have to be future ready, it needs to be intelligent. It's not just about running an operation. The operation needs to be intelligent by deploying the technology, by focusing on outcome. So everything needs to be outcome based. So which means that, for example, if I'm talking about an invoice processing, it's not about just processing an invoice for compliance perspective. It's all about, can I look into the working capital? Can I capture on sort of some cash on the table? Like, for example, can I look for early payment discounts? From a DSO standpoint, can I sort of minimize my DSO so that sort of my working capital further improves, and I can sort of improve my customer journey so that the customer experience changes? Because it's all about customer in the future. So therefore, can I sort of focus on that? Can I provide the right amount of business insight for the business to be nimble, robust, so that it can adapt to the future requirement? And I have the right set of information for me to take the right calls, as opposed to spending time interpreting the data day in, day out to make a meaningful stuff. Can I be sort of so fast that I can sort of keep moving things almost on a regular basis so that I can be always staying at the top of the curve? And that's what sort of getting you ready to the future operations means. So how is it going to look like in sort of 2025? It's all about, I said like, it's all going to be technology. We believe that sort of artificial intelligence is going to sort of take a long sort of road into the business operation. AI advisors are going to be sitting next to next in terms of with the humans, trying to give you with sort of fulfillment, trying to sort of do automated stuff. So anything that is repeatable, measurable, condition based is all going to be taken over by the computers because of the upstream and the downstream technology changes that you're going to make in. Reporting is going to be sort of self-service. You are not going to ask somebody to create a report for you. Whatever report you want, it's going to be a self-service dashboards. So whatever you want, you just pull and drag and sort of pull, get your own reports. There'd be platforms will be integrated, data exchanges will be sort of happening smoothly, because you have seen an increasing trend today, whether it's a data lake, data architecture, and data modeling and data governance. It's all taking a lot of priority, and a lot of projects are currently happening or underway to make this stuff happen. So by 2025, we believe that significant achievement would be done in this space. And it's going to be dynamic, real-time closing. So which means that the books of accounts are going to be closed on time. Is going to be sort of a lot more dynamic and accurate forecasting for rapid decision making. So therefore, reconciliation is not going to be any more manual, because people are looking at blockchain as an example to see how they can sort of bring in the blockchain for reconciliation. And if all this technology is able to sort of convert and implemented, it's going to change the way in which the entire function is going to sort of work. Last but not least is about sort of where do you want to align your price? Do you align your price to the legacy process that we have built it all along, because a lot of people have that sort of pride. I've been there. I have sort of started off with a 1 or 2 FTEs. I've grown this organization to such an extent. I've been there right from day one. I have put my sweat and blood into this. Is it how sort of you're going to go and take on the pride on sort of focusing on the legacy of labor arbitrage, simple productivities or point solutions, looking at sort of high performance or cost efficiencies, or trying to create a tactical value? Then sort of you're probably be going to remain in the past. You want to be future ready. You need to sort of align your price to the outcomes based. The question is no longer about the process. It's no longer about how you do it. It's about sort of what you do it and how you are able to make a difference in terms of to the business by providing the right data and applied intelligence, trying to move to the next generation insights and decision for them to sort of do it, and unboxing the value almost every day. It's not about just during the month end or a periodical time sort of when you're closing the books trying to create the value. The value needs to be unblocked almost every day and co-creating. So it's not just about you, me, etc. It's about how we can create that sort of co-creation to deliver that sort of value at a cost that is extremely optimized and that actually directly linked and relatable to a customer experience. So that's how sort of the overall sort of future is going to go, and the success is going to sort of be done sort of it's within the reach by converting sort of a transforming to an intelligent managed service process, by bringing in the right governance, tracking the right outcomes, creating the right metrics and tracking which is leading to sort of the outcomes you want, and being more descriptive, which basically means having the right data for decision support analysis. All these things are going to come through platforms, data, intelligent automation, analytics, and secure cloud. And this is how sort of the future is going to sort of be. And the question is that, are you ready for the future? Is a question that needs to sort of be thought through, because the more you think about, today I'm okay, today I'm able to do things, maybe sort of you'll probably go back or you're going down to the history as a past because you're not going to be ready. And what happened, as I said earlier, what happened to Blackberries or what happened to Nokia is not very far away for most of the business organization from an operational perspective. So with that, I'll probably take a stop here and talk about more in terms of intelligent automation. I'll call my colleague partner Abhishek to sort of come in to talk about how this is all being structured, because I gave you a wider vision. He will now sort of talk about sort of how this can be converted and how real is this for the corporates and the business to sort of move to the future and be a future ready operations. Abhishek, over to you.
Thanks, Bala. Hi, everyone. And I think this was an excellent insight from Bala on the managed services. I'll carry this forward to automation, and I will try to cover the larger umbrella of the automation to begin with, and then I will move on to the actual use cases within the finance professional day. But I've made few changes because when we converted into PDF, some of the images got blank.
No, I'm only showing the PowerPoint.
Can I share my screen?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Is it visible?
Yeah.
Perfect. So, since we have heard about automation and in 1997, or 99, when the first time IBM Deep Blue challenged Gary Kasparov, it took him 6 attempts to beat Gary Kasparov, and since then Watson, which was the AI system which IBM built, has been just learning. Every day the system is learning new moves, and what is happening is we as humans who have an overconfident brain have been losing to Watson since then. This is Jeopardy, the game which happened in 2012. This is AlphaGo, where Google's DeepMind, defeated a human player first time. If you look at how this game is played, this game has 10 to the power, I think I'm not able to see, 170 moves possible, which is more than the number of atom knowns in the known universe. And with that kind of a game, AlphaGo was able to defeat Lee Sedol. and won 4 out of 5 games and Lee won only one. So all the power of artificial intelligence which is being built is learning every day, and humans against these powerful computers are becoming much more inferior in doing computational jobs, while art, some of the other jobs, humans are still holding an edge. uh, in fact, some of the computers started seeing the dreams. So Google AI can dream too. And if you make Google AI to attend a webinar, and if it is boring, then they might sleep and look some good dreams. Now with that, Bala touched upon a very important topic of bitcoins or a cryptocurrency, and that is one important change which has happened in last one decade since 2008, when Satoshi Nakamoto put up that paper of distributed currency. And if you look at today, Bitcoin has become eighth largest system from the currency perspective, monetary value perspective in the world, and that has reduced lots of problem of dual spend, problem of reconciliation. All those basic challenges which we used to deal with actually doesn't exist in the system fundamentally. So the problem of the future will be different than the problem of today. Today we struggle to scan the invoice, read it properly, put the data into the system, either manually or even with the help of bot. Tomorrow those problems will not exist at all, right? So if you look at one part of artificial intelligence, which is the overall domain part, automation. So let's look at intelligent automation, what's in it for you guys as finance professionals. If you look at the industry revolution which happened in last couple of decades, the biggest and the most complex is now where we are in cyber physical world, which is also getting embedded with mechanical, which we call mechatronics, and also getting integrated with the biology, which is now you could see limb which are artificial, are people are able to work with those artificial limbs, hands are moving with brain waves. So all that is happening because all the AI technologies are converging together, and this convergence of technology is getting into a faster, much more faster revolution, right? So if you look at from the market perspective, 84% businesses are investing in the artificial intelligence. If they believe if they don't do, they will lose competitive advantage. 232 billion is the expected overall AI spending by 2025. 44 customers prefer going to a chatbot and asking the basic questions. 15.7 trillion will be this was last year, take a discount on COVID, so maybe not, perhaps not accurate, but still COVID actually added a lot of fuel to digital transformation. Now let's move on to the part 2 and look at what is the difference. So when someone comes and tells me, are you ready for automation, and when you as a professional, someone asks you what is automation for you and what is the difference of automation versus digitization. So the fundamental difference of digitization versus automation is when I convert my physical invoice or a purchase order into a digital invoice or a purchase order is where I am doing digitization. The moment I do digitization, when I pick the data and transfer the data from one system to other system, that's where I put a bot to learn from one input and put that input into another system. That's where the automation comes into picture, where you are removing a human from the task and taking the input from a system and providing an output to another system. That's the fundamental concept of digitization versus automation. And the RP automation, which we are talking about, which is more around the services, not the other part of the automation, is where you are eliminating humans from the task. Right now, if we quickly look at the generations, if you look at the first one, which is basic, very basic rule-based activity, is I get a scanned copy of an invoice that get digitized by OCR, and once the OCR readers take the digitized value and puts into another system. What is happening here? We are giving a very structured format that by this coordinate you will get date, by this coordinate you will get purchase order number, at this coordinate you will get invoice value. These data need to go into L1, L2, L3 sheets. So that's mainly when you have a structured data with you and you can do that kind of automation. But is your system intelligent enough to understand the data which it has scanned? What data is that? That's where the learn part comes in, where you start understanding the data which you have scanned. So if a bot has scanned the invoice and automatically it says anything which has Jan, Feb, March is a date, anything which has slash is a date, anything which has comma and dot is the commercial value, and anything starting with PO hyphen this is a purchase order. That's where the learn bot comes into picture, which is the next level of bots. The third is the reasoning one, where I can actually put this data to learn from the previous data which I have fed to the system, which could be if there is a difference in 8 and 6, if the system is making error, how system is learning that basic mistake which it has been doing, how system is learning from multiple invoices, and how it can give you some advanced level analytics out of this. So that learnings comes back to you from the system. As Bala was telling, we will sit along with the system and system will tell the advice. That's the reasoning part of it. The last but not the least is think like a human, and I told you a couple of examples with Deep Blue and Watson, and that's where those systems are. They are thinking faster than human in the area in which they have been trained for. So that's the basic in terms of the understanding the technology. If you look at the nitty-gritties and the parts like OCR, which is character recognition, RPA, you have ICR, computer vision, machine learning, NLP, which is natural language processing, and natural language understanding, which is when I talk to a system can understand me. I will give you a very fantastic example of NLP and NLU in one of the live use case which I'll run today. NLG is natural language generation, which is where you generate a natural language from a system by providing certain inputs. Again, from a reporting perspective, I will show you some of the fantastic examples of NLG. Chatbots, be it a voice chatbot or a type chatbot or a video chatbot, is that particular category, and deep and neural network is the category which I showed you at the beginning of the presentation. So these are overall kind of tech stack or type of automation technology which are used across the platforms, and where it is used in mastering the data, operational excellence, business agility, and new model IT infrastructure and architect. So these are the enablers for artificial intelligence. Now look at this. This is very important for all of us to understand today. All of these are actual examples of artificial intelligence. Text classification, based on the text coming to me, I know what is spam, what is email, important email, what is not an important email, what is supposed to go into trash direct. Character recognition. So there are two types. One, the OCR which recognizes a character. There is a second type of OCR which recognizes a pattern or an image. So I can treat a letter R as a character, or I can also treat letter R as a painting or a drawing, right? As an object. So the OCR which are more on the object side are much more smarter. They can understand much more wider range of languages and the patterns. Information extraction. So I have got some certain PDF. I need a data out of it. I can do that with the help of automation. Prediction. I have the historic data. I can predict how the market will behave, how the pattern will be of the sales and all those things. Policy compliance, text to speech, NLP, knowledge extraction, data exploration, rule-based interference, text similarity, which is identifying signature, in fact, from the OCR, QA dialog chat box, which is I told you about voice chat and all, image extraction from one system to another, buying recommendation, which you must have seen how when you go on a particular website and you get to see an ad of a dress or a shoe or a gadget which you have been following, that comes to you, it follows you. It has multiple technologies, and some part of it classifies into artificial intelligence. Sentiment analysis, when I'm chatting with a customer, or bot is chatting with a customer, or bot is talking to a customer, can a bot identify if the customer is angry? Can the bot identify if it is a SOS, a customer has lost his or her card? Should I transfer it to a human? So that's on sentiment analysis, speech to text when I'm talking and that's going and getting logged as a ticket, information retrieval, data visualization, probabilistic interface, text summarization, creating a summary out of the text, NLG, which is again I said natural language generation, image classification, decision making, machine translation, and so on and so forth. So these are the possibilities with the help of automation, and there are many more. So these are some of the sample which I wanted to show this to this group, and this makes possible our back office, mid office, and front office. I can talk to my customer, I can talk to my supplier with the help of chatbot. I can give my supplier status of purchase order, the payment. I can tell my customer where is his or her order is. I can make my industrial production, the complete plant automated. I can make my support function, HR, IT, finance, fully automated. So these technologies play a role across front, mid, and back office. Now, coming to a fantastic example, natural language generation. This is a BI platform which we are working with a couple of clients. What it does, it basically takes an input as an Excel sheet, which has either your FP&A or FNA or R2 or O2C, any type of report coming from any type of the business, and it generates natural language reports, and it has AI-powered insight engine, converse with your data, self-service plugin, pre-built template, layout engine, so on and so forth. Let me show you some of the outcomes of this. So left-hand side is what you see is the input. Right-hand side is what you see is an output. The top 3 performing LBUs are ELIP, ELSO, MOMG with this much percentage. Second example is one particular unit, business unit, industrial automation. What are my number of order? What are the revenues? And what you see at the bottom is the overall summary. So today, enterprise who deploy very high-end resources to write that summary is not required at all, because the report generated by my system is much more accurate, much more better. I can just reduce number of staff to 10% or 20% to review, right? So this is NLG, one more example, and this is again a voice chat bot. Now this particular chat bot, which is developed by one of our vendor, can talk in 11 Indian languages. It can talk in English. It understands English. It can understand the dialect, and it can give your vendors and your customers support on both the sides, right? So those are some of the examples of NLP and NLG. Let's come to this finance specific use cases and where all it is applicable from the RPA perspective. If you look at on P2P life cycle, you see the purple color, which is target for RPA, the blue color, which is cognitive automation, advanced level automation, and the green color, which is artificial intelligence. So 3 level of advanced automations and their applicability. So if you look at maintain supplier strategies, it's mostly blue and green. Right hand side with system maintenance, report and analysis, more around RPA, invoice processing again around RPA. So these are some of the tasks within the P2P lifecycle. I will also run you through a fantastic use case of P2P lifecycle, how to look at a P2P lifecycle in a holistic way. This is on order to cash. If you look at again, managed customer is more around blue. Rest mostly you will see the purple. Managed customer credit portfolio, quote and order management, invoice management. Everywhere there is a role for RPA to play. Record to report, again one more suspect of automation across the complete function as well as the task which is within the process. Now, what's in it for the business? Privacy and compliance, quality and accuracy, process improvement and efficiency, speed, and employee satisfaction. I think while we have seen lots of example for this fraternity where I have 512 CA practitioner, one question to you guys: if there are bots who are processing my transaction, do I need segregation of duty? Can I see the answers in the chat box, please? I'll repeat my question. If I have 2 bots processing my payment throughout the complete payment lifecycle, do I need segregation of duty? That's my first question. Can I see the answers in the chat box? Second, if I have my complete procurement happening fully automated, where I in fact have IoT devices which are telling me which particular goods have been received based on the IoT sensor, do I need a three-way manual match? Can I see the answers and then we move? Perfect. So let the answers flow in and then we move to some of the fantastic examples. When we saw what's in it for the business, the advantage of the business using automation in the RPA are no downtime, bots are working 24/7, no HR activist or a PETA activist will come and ask you to shut down the office. Faster implementation, consistency across the businesses, quality and reliability, efficiency and operational process, which is excellent, which is in fact, people have seen 300%, 400% optimization. Customer experience, better customer experience in by using NLP and NLG and providing them response faster. Business continuity. So when we spoke with many of our clients during COVID, which is the first 3-month period, and they realized that they tested their BCP and infused lots of RPA to work, or lots of bots to work 24/7. So some of the retail clients who saw a spike at the beginning because of the buy which they had in their stores, which was a panic buy, it was not possible if they didn't have bots in their system to process those kind of orders and all those things. Regulatory compliance, I asked you 2 questions, give me the answer. Execution time goes down significantly. Work with existing IT, yes. Simple mobile, simple laptop, it's very lightweight. Scalability very high, and reduction in cost is the best and the most sought after example by the business. So these are the values delivered by an IA implementation. Let's look at one of the very interesting use case of P2P. My third question to this audience, what has been the topmost priority for the CFO during COVID period? Just give me answer in one word. What has been the topmost priorities of the enterprise CFOs during COVID period? Let the answer flow in, and I'll show you one fantastic use case which is related to these questions. Okay, so what we did is we looked at how industry performance is gauged since ages. So Taylor, after which a very famous time and motion study is named, and the concept is called Taylorism. He came up with the concept of time and motion study, where he used to study how humans are moving in a production plant, how they are putting in effort on the assembly line, and he came up with a study, how do I improve human efficiency? Now that was for a production plant, which is still in fashion, and we at time superimpose this on service industry. What is it on my screen? So if I can see a response on chat. What do you see on my screen? What is this screenshot looks like? Well, this is a work day of my secretary, how she starts her day, what all she does during the day. And this is a typical outcome of time and motion study. Can I gauge my secretary's efficiency based on this? Perhaps not, because for service industry, it is not applicable. So what is applicable for service industry, where lots of us are working? We need this. What is this? This is left hand side. What you see is a standard process for the complete sale, and on the right hand side is actual representation of process being followed in the enterprise. While there are a couple of very strong red lines which are showing that process as per the process design, but there are multiple other lines which are where the PO got approved out of the route, or there are certain customers where the purchase order went to invoice booking direct and to the payment was short for some of the vendors. It was always an issue with certain vendors. How can we generate this kind of outcome from the data which we get? So input we have is Microsoft Dynamics, SAP Ariba, ServiceNow. Now these system, when they give you data, what you do is you input that data into a process mining system. This process mining connects the case ID of purchase, sale, or any unique ID, and then it gives you the correlation with the task. Now, if you see here on the screen is process discovery exercise, where we have a complete journey of the process from process start till the process end, and it also shows you the variance of the process. So a process which has 43,000 attempts within the system, you see 25,000 went through the straight route, but 17,500 went direct creation of purchase order. They didn't go through the requisition and all. And why? You can do further drill down. Now, when I look at this process in silo, I can actually give you lots of insights. But if I connect this with the CFO's priority, and for me, my answer to the CFO's priority during COVID period was cash. And that was the biggest priority for all the CFOs which we have spoken to. Can I give you a view of a real-time view of what is your cash position today, and how is it possible? And how can I make my position much more better? Can I tweak some of the payment terms? Can I change the way I used to process my payments earlier versus now? Can I make it much more digitized? So on and so forth, right? So this is the way by using digitization and automation, you can give a complete view of the enterprise to the CFO and other stakeholders. Payment behavior compliance by the vendors or the customer and all. Now, the process analysis which I showed you, which is more around process mining, it can be applicable on P2P, O2C, record to report, logistics, production, IT services, and so on and so forth. On top, what you see is the outcome which you can see. In fact, resource optimization is the biggest, where we see how many people are processing how many purchase order, where are the issues, who's processing which type of purchase order, why this particular individual or a system has always an issue, and so on and so forth. Source system, Oracle, MS Dynamics, Salesforce, any of those systems can give us the data for the analysis and study. So with that, I will come to the last part of my session, and then we can open floor for question and answers. I'm more than happy to take any questions. But before that, the changes which we are seeing today, going back to the infusion of technology, when multiple technology come and fuse together, the speed of change increases multifold. And that is what's happening with the overall artificial intelligence as well as the automation and the RPA coming together. And when you bring data along with the automation, cognitive, your enterprise become much more smarter. And this is happening now. So if you are thinking that RPA is a couple of years down the line, I think that's a big mistake. So that's where we are. As I said, these technologies are changing our world every day, and we need to be ahead of this by adopting it and learning from these every time we do a implementation POCs and all. With that, I'll take a pause. More than happy to take any questions, any doubts.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think we can probably sort of take questions, because rather than trying to give you a lot more theoretical perspective,
Yeah.
We can probably sort of talk more in terms of some practical questions and what we see in real world.
Yes, they'll start typing the questions. I can see 1 or 2 questions here, and it will be shown on a screen. 1 minute. Chairman will be joining the session. 1 minute. He's having a technical problem, it seems. So it seems this session is logged out. You need to rejoin again. I just tried to download those things. In the meanwhile, you can see the questions in the questions pane, right, sir?
Yeah. So I think I've
the
answered a few questions directly on the chat, but I'm seeing
Yes,
a
sir.
latest question in terms of, can you
Yeah, you can,
suggest? Yeah,
you
so
can
I'm just
scroll
looking
up, and you have answered the questions in the response
Yeah,
to that will be visible to only the participants, so you can answer that right away now. Also, those two questions alone to all
Sure. I think
participants.
the questions that's come up were like, what is the current level of acceptance and conversion in India and globally from
Yes.
digitization to automation of the various possibilities? So as I sort of typed, the acceptance is quite high, but the
Yes.
deployment is low. Most of the automations that's been done have been primarily a point solution, and companies have now started to realize that sort of point solutions are not going to resolve anything better, and it is the return on investment on these point solutions are not going to be that great. So people have moved away from point solution. Today, if you go and talk to them about RPA and bots on a point solution basis, nobody is encouraged or keen to sort of implement them for the simple reason: one, you need to maintain those bots and RPAs. Second is that the moment you have a higher version or you have a change in your core system, then these bots have to be recoded again to sort of in order to be effective. So therefore, no organization is today allowing any of the consultants or any of the advisors to sort of come and sort of implement a point solution. So whatever solution they're looking at is needs to be an end-to-end solution, and it needs to sort of work directly with the core systems. Next question: how many enterprises are currently using different automation possibilities in India and global? I think global corporates are quite high in terms of the level of automations they've done. So they've moved away from sort of looking at process level to almost sort of end-to-end level. Indian companies are catching up significantly, especially in the manufacturing space. We have seen a significant evolution of automation happening. So Industry 4.0 is picking up big time, and a lot of Indian corporates like L&T, JSW, Vedanta. So almost quite a lot of these companies are ahead of the game in terms of where they are on the industrialized automation, and they are now going into sort of the Internet of Things and the new age technologies as we speak. So they have, again, in some form or fashion, almost all companies, all the major companies have some level of automation that's happening. Any free or low cost RPA softwares to start with? There are quite a lot are available in the market, free or open source tools that sort of you can download from the internet and sort of codify. But the only thing that you need to be careful about is that sort of it's one size doesn't fit all. All these free softwares have to be coded properly to sort of make it relevant. But you need to be careful about two things. One is the cyber security, the other one is the data privacy, because these programs are meant to collect a lot of data. Because another big thing we are seeing within sort of all these technology is data collection. Almost every company wants to collect the data at the end user level. So therefore, question is, you have to be careful in terms of how you do it. Otherwise, you might expose yourself to a lot of cyber risk and data privacy, and you might also fall short in terms of being a point solution.
Yeah, if I may chime in,
Yes.
the typical old school ERP systems were nothing but an automation system. They have automated your task in the processes. That is the basic system. And then on top of that, Excel is amazing tool for automation, especially on the reporting side. Then on top of that comes the automation anywhere UI path and all, which are paid definitely. But then there are languages like Python, Silk and all, which you can use to automate some of your tasks, which are openware. So those are the three ways doing it.
Yeah. What are the drivers expected by business for deployment to grow and grow quickly? How can practicing CAs with fair level of technology knowledge and skills motivate MSME business for automation consulting and services? Second, it's about the ability to articulate the relevance of technology to the promoters and the management. It's not just about trying to sell a service. It's more in terms of what's the value that's sort of going to come in. And I think if you're able to do a proof of concept by sort of implementing or showcasing them as to how it can happen, then it becomes a lot more easier to sort of sell a further sort of technology enhancements into the organization. And again, it is not just about the automation for the business alone, and it's probably relevant to the practicing CAs also, because most of either your audit work or tax work or your compliance checks, almost everything can be automated in one form or the fashion. So therefore, automation is not just restricted only for a corporate or the business that's running. It's also highly relevant to the practicing CAs on many fronts. be it running sort of your own operations, be it running in terms of your own audits. Today, if you probably see at KPMG, we have significant amount of automations done in our own audit space. So to give you a very simple example, while finalizing the audits, as part of the process, at least 3 to 4 drafts are reviewed on financial statements. I'm just giving a very simple automation, how we have evolved and how we create our own automations to meet our own requirements. And imagine 250 pages of financial statements, whether it is SEC filing, whether it's India financial statements. You need to go through the casting. Casting has been a big problem because you don't want to be sort of found caught on sort of silly mistakes on castings. So what we did was that, like, can we create a way by which the system can read, because we know that sort of it's not done in Excel. If I have a PDF coming to me for the final check, can I, as a partner, before signing it off, can I ensure that the castings have all been done correctly? Can I rely on this as a very simple basic problem? Because a lot of times we have seen that sort of something or the other going wrong in those kind of stuff. So now what has happened is we've created a system whereby sort of it scrapes all the data out of the PDF, calculates it, and tells you sort of like whether there are any sort of calculation errors or not. If, especially when it comes to casting, or if it's a cross-referencing on the schedules, or it is probably where in one page you talk something about, let's say, for example, an operating cost, and the operating cost and the schedules are different. It can match all those kind of things and throw up a complete report to the partner before he signs off to say that I have gone through all these checks, and from a cursory check, everything sort of matches. Your totals are all right. Your page reference numbers are correct. Your schedule reference numbers are right. And whatever commentary you have included in the director's report, in the management report, and to the financial statements, anything sort of it can pick up on the keywords and key themings. It picks up and sort of certifies to you, so that for when you are signing off the financial statements, you get a lot more comfort. That's a very simple but very effective tool. So therefore, it does help a practicing chartered accountant also in a many ways. Can you suggest free or low cost or PA tools for developing POCs? There are quite a lot: Tag UI, Automea, Hadoop, Python. So these are all open source. You can sort of take it and you can sort of modify the way you want to sort of do it. But just be careful, as I said, cyber security and the data privacy are very, very important. How can we convince the management to invest on digitization or automation in finance? Again, as I said, if you constantly push saying that, okay, fine, I can bring in efficiency, I can save cost, nobody's going to buy this. So you have to articulate with sort of a real case, or you have to probably sort of take on yourself to automate and show them, okay, fine, what happens to this and what is the effect of this automation on human or man hours that the company is going to spend. And if you're able to sort of bring that kind of a differentiators, then I think the management will start sort of listening to you. Otherwise, almost every consultant knocks on every business to say that I can do this, I can do that. So therefore, you have to be careful in terms of how you sort of bring in and how do you articulate, and building that trust is very, very important there.
One more thing which I can add, Bala, here is it's very important for the enterprises to look at the ROI on these investments. And if you dig a bit deeper, some of the HBR articles claim that 59% RPA fail. So don't overestimate. Start small. Start with the right use cases where the low-hanging fruits have higher chance of success for you. Number one. Number two, try to map the benefit within the same financial year so that it can look good for the enterprise. I've seen many of the clients starting in the month of before their financial year begins, so that they can finish the POC and then they can get the budget approval, and in the next financial year they can complete the implementation as well as show the benefit. So some of these things, finding those low-hanging fruit. Plus, when you identify these low-hanging fruit, don't go by the people judgment, go by the system judgment, because people will give you different perspective. This is the issue with the PO, this is the issue with the PR, this is the issue with the person, this is the issue with the system. Don't do that. Study the data, and data will tell you all the story, which is the real story.
Correct. So for example, see, the point could be reconciliation could be an issue today, but the question is, you need to probably understand the root cause. Why is the reconciliation actually breaking in the first place? And if you're trying to sort of automate on the root cause, then your point solution just disappears on its own. Hello, sir. You spoke about the SODs. Let's say during the system updation, one of the bots gets not upgraded and subsequently starts to fail. Yeah, so naturally, whenever sort of a system is upgraded, the bot also needs to be coded, and it's a common practice that sort of today, while testing used to sort of happen before sort of implementation of any sort of a bots or any sort of enhancements, but today what is happening is that there's a change in terms of how the technology also works today in parallel. So user feedbacks are taken into consideration to modify. So therefore, in the event if they notice a fail, it usually goes through a complete sort of comprehensive checklist of all the dependencies or the system that are currently relying on the existing system. So therefore, the automatic updates happens. In the event if it fails, naturally you have to pull it down and update it to sort of make it work.
So Bala, that's more on the technology side. If you look at the underlying logic of the SOD check was, maker checker, and hence keeping it within the separate end. And these are bots. Are you trying to see that if bots can collude together and approve some of the payments? So I think the underlying logic of the SOD itself is being challenged with RP.
Yeah. How much how far practical for small companies to invest in automation? Second, I said automation is don't look this as a band-aid. So automation could be done on the core systems also. So not necessarily that there has to be a separate application that needs to run as an automation. That could also be done at the primary or the source level as well. And it doesn't matter whether it's a smaller big companies, because even if you sort of see some of the pre-revenue companies, new age startup companies, which probably has only 3 or 4 FTEs, are also working in terms of creating that kind of automation. So therefore, it's not a question of practicality, it's a question of sort of where you want to be. That's what I said. Like, so it all matters on where you want to stand in the 4 buckets we talked about. How much does it cost a 100 crore turnover company? What are the best sources available in the market to onboard? Is it feasible for MSME? Again, as I said, the turnover is irrelevant from an automation standpoint. It's all question is, what is the customer experience, the customer journey you want to craft, and what is that sort of you want to sort of take it as part of your growth strategy, and how you map your automation to meet that customer experience is more important. Request you to share the presentation. I guess it's already been done in the handouts. Which are the languages like Python which a CA can learn?
Yeah, the presentation is available in the handout.
Yeah. So next question is, which are the languages like Python?
The presentation is put in the handouts and will be putting in the website as
well. Okay, cool.
Please carry on, Balu.
Yeah, sure. Which are the languages like Python which a CA can learn? Are there any websites where learning can be enhanced or assisted? Do you feel that courses offered by? Second, the question is that, like, do you want to be a functional expert or do you want to be a technology expert? Because if you want to be a functional expert, I think you need to work with the technology to give that kind of a right functional specs for them to build the right tool. And if you want to be a functional as well as a techno, I guess there are multiple places from where sort of you can learn. And today, with almost edutech as being one of the area where people are sort of investing millions of dollars in this one, there are a lot of places where you can sort of probably go and sort of learn. Python is a free one that you can probably learn because that's used significantly in the data science as well. And again, you can't just say that sort of one versus the other. The more on data science and the more on the data analytics is going to sort of help you, purely because there is a craving for data, and the data, not just the data. The question is also, how do you interpret? And I talked about being sort of descriptive to predictive to prescriptive. So all these things largely rely on data. So therefore, it's not going to sort of let you down as you learn all these new age skills.
One more thing, Bala, which I can add here, I can chime in on where you can learn. So today, I work with lots of CAs and I come from a technology background, and I know the learning patterns are totally different because the way the buyer gets trained after doing CA or a BTech are totally different. But there are some very advanced low-code platforms which are out there in market. I don't want to name them to promote any one of them, but just search for the low-code platform. If you don't get it, just ping me. I'll give you all the names. These are the platform where you can actually start tweaking with the icons, and it gives you the complete control on the task. If this then that, if this then that. It's simple, and these are very graphical interfaces, so you don't need to learn a coding language. You can simply pick up a low-code platform and start automating your task.
how to balance data privacy versus use of technology. For example, use of Google, which penetrates your system without being aware of many things. So the question is, as you are installing or as you are trying to use the system, you are actually giving them a lot of permission to do it, and you are accepting without reading the terms and conditions, because they are quite clear in terms of the terms that they're saying that they're going to collect certain amount of data from you, and you are giving the consent. So you can actually go down. If you go down to your settings, there are ways in which sort of you can take away the permissions you have been granting to them. How automation impacting audit profession? What an auditor should keep in mind while auditing automation companies, as there is a risk of automation. Abhishek, you want to take that?
Sure. I think as I spoke about cryptocurrency and I spoke about the Bitcoin, now there is a huge multi-trillion system out there in the cloud. Who's auditing it? I don't think there is anyone who's auditing today any cryptocurrency network, and multi-billion transactions are happening on that network. So in the future, so what is the role of an external auditor or an internal auditor? These are line of defense. Line of defense are created for what? To make sure the fraud never happens, or chances of reducing the fraud. So first line of defense is the process, second is then you put the control, third is internal, fourth is external audit. Now all these fundamentally are risk management techniques. Now in the future, when I'm doing a transaction and I'm doing a transaction on a shared ledger, and the ledger is accessible to anyone to come and see the do the audit, do I need an auditor? So I think there are fundamental shift which is going to come in an auditing profession. Lots of AI ML is going to get infused. Any suspicious activity will get flagged in advance, and hence the preventive control will play a larger role. So what an auditor should do is try to learn as much as possible about the impact of technology on the profession. So all the three layers, because my process is getting automated and my controls are also getting automated, and hence my audit also need to get a lot more automated and get to be more system generated. So in future I will not go and look at 100 sample invoices manually and see which are the invoices which have wrong dates or whatever be the case. I will actually ask the algorithm to check it.
Yeah, and also please bear in mind, sort of like, whilst automation is going to help you eliminate some of the manual tasks, etc., but the auditing standard is not going to be same. So you have to sort of still follow the auditing standards, the guidelines issued by the institute, to sort of follow through in order to form an opinion. It's not the automation is going to form an opinion on its own. So it's actually the practicing chartered accountant needs to form an opinion based on the audit he or she has performed. So therefore, it is towards the auditing guidelines and the principles that's been laid out that you need to follow. Automation is only a tool that sort of speeds up or helps you out.
Yes, and in fact, Bala, one more point which I can add is perhaps in future a sample-based auditing will not be in picture, and then it will come into the guideline, because you have system and the data is digitized. Do 100% audit. Can I do that? If I have system, then I can. And we have done it for a bank where a particular department, all transactions are being audited by the internal audit team, because 80% of that is automated now.
Yeah. Okay. Can we share
what is the lowest hanging fruit, Bala? In RPA?
Low hanging fruits. Yeah. Second, it's all question. Yeah. Low hanging fruits are primarily sort of all your process, internal process on the enable functions. Let's, for example, if it's a question of virtual onboarding from a HR standpoint, to managing the learning and development, whichever can be automated, ensuring sort of your HR management. In finance and accounting, you can talk about sort of the invoice processing, trying to sort of move everything towards a PO, and a three-way match being done technology, and those things sort of help you to sort of achieve what you're looking for. There are multiple things. Again, it's a complete list of things that you have to just do a comprehensive review of the process in order to understand what are the low-hanging fruits that you can automation. Difference between RPA, AI, and ML. So again, they're all one form or the other in terms of automation. So RPA is the robotic process automation, so whereby sort of it could be just a simple bot that could run around and do it. Let's say, for example, if I have to say cash application as an example, the cash application can be automated by an RPA, and it can sort of automatically do it. AI is all about artificial intelligence. because you are also coaching and teaching the system to learn, and that's also part of machine learning. So AI and ML is interchangeably used. Just to give you an example, if you take maps, because I'm sure sort of a lot of you people use Google Maps. So Google has got the AI and ML embedded into the maps. So every time when you sort of have user feedback and you're actually giving that user feedback, it actually goes back to the system to tell them, okay, fine, the routing that you've done has actually not worked, and you probably put point A to point B. And for example, like you take a wrong tour, or you know probably the way out, and you have taken a different route than what it has proposed. It actually tries to take all these data and sort of repurposes, so that every time when it sees there is a possible or room for improvement, it tries to improve itself. And that's how sort of you use the AI and the ML there. And similarly, for example, Facebook, again, sort of the reason is because I've worked in Apple, I've worked in Facebook, I've worked in Google. So therefore, I'm able to relate sort of how the AI, ML, RPA is being used there. And again, in Facebook, for example, it has got AI and ML embedded. So any abusive, hatred speech, politically insensitive comments, all these things, the system itself can capture it. So the system was able to achieve 90% accuracy. So what happens is that up to 95%, it automatically catches it, and up to maybe another 5%, it actually puts for a secondary check. So which means that the efficiency of the system to capture at the root has increased significantly through these technologies.
Yeah. So Bala, just to add, to make it simple, AI is the superset, and there are various types of artificial intelligence. Machine learning is the ability to learn from the historic patterns and give a cognitive output. RPA is a subset of the overall large AI world. So AI is the superset, and within AI you have advanced level, which is machine learning. RPA is a basic superset, basic subset of overall AI.
Yeah. So you're mentioning KPMG developed the tool for casting. Yes. How a practicing CA can also use or deploy this tool, as it's not practical to develop? Is there a market tool you can buy? Again, the point is that there are market tools available. It's a question of just sort of being sort of built or crafted. So this is something which we have built it for our own internal use and not to sell it to the market. So this is primarily deployed across KPMG Global because the tool has been now tested multiple times to ensure that it is working well and it's being used across the globe for our audit. So it's a proprietary tool right now. And there are tools available. Again, we have used multiple languages to sort of create this one. So these are available in the market.
And if you're referring to the report generation tool, which I showed you, it's a web-based tool, cloud-based. You can just input the data and get the output from that. More than happy to share the details of that.
Yeah, I've already answered that question of data privacy and use of technology on the Google presentation. Yeah, kindly share both your contact numbers. Certainly, I think we'll probably put it on the handout.
Bala, there is a very important question as 527. Thanks for present. Lots of learning from GCC, GBS, KPO, BPO sort of setup. See, great paradigm shift. Okay, let's move the comment. I think
a question for the chairman. Could you please share some feedback on how the institute is preparing on audit for RPA-led processes?
Yeah, right now it is still in the primitive stage because SSP has just got implemented, and there are places where RPA and blockchain both are going to be used, but just not immediately. In next few months, things are actually got initiated. That's the only update from the institute side.
On the blockchain side, I can give you a couple of updates. We are working with some of the standards institute, ISO, OSI, and BSI, and a couple of others on bringing some of the standards around voting and other areas. A little far from getting into production, but the work in progress on blockchain.
And on the RPA, institute has come with a nice concept paper. It just came before 6 to 8 months. Maybe we'll share it to all the participants. You can go through that as well.
I'll also share a RPA security white paper with this group so that can get circulated.
Please do share it with us. We'll be able to place it in the website of us. We'll do that.
Sure.
Next is, what are the software which can do PDF automation? Is that taken up? What are the software that help in generation of audit report with having to enter the director name or director?
I think the PDF one is same. It's about RPA. Input could be PDF or a Word document or Excel sheet. It doesn't matter. It could be a screen also. So it doesn't matter whether it is PDF as an
OCR
input or not.
technology.
So
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
OCR technology that is primarily used to sort of scrape the
yes.
data and for reviews.
What are the
In fact,
opportunities
just
available?
to add, Google Notes is there, where you just put even an image or a PDF file in that, it kind of picks text whatever you need, it converts it into your normal text. In fact, the picture, even if you search say XYZ is there in the picture and you search that, that also gets thrown up in the search option.
Correct.
The next is, what are the opportunities available for CS in the field of these disruptive technologies, say blockchain, cloud computing, or AI? Please also help. What are the learning options available, and are there any additional courses required so that we CS are ahead of the tech savvy engineers? This is for C. Balasubramaniam.
Yeah, I would
Good
answer
question. A lot of opportunities, I would say. So again, I'm a chartered accountant. I started off my career in auditing, and today I am not auditing. I'm into consulting. I am into digital world. So it's a question of, I think it's your hunger that's going to determine, that's going to sort of take you to sort of what you want to do with. Question is, do you enjoy programming and coding? Then you have to probably go into the learning of programming and coding. Alternate is, because since you have far too many engineers who can probably run these kind of programs and codes, you could be a very good sort of functional specialist, and that's exactly how sort of we go in, because you can design, blueprint, and tell them as to sort of what needs to be sort of designed for. So therefore, there are quite a lot of opportunities, because getting that functional expertise is very, very critical. And most of the time, what happens is that the technology is done by people who do not have the functional expertise. They only have the technology expertise to write down the program, and therefore you act as a complementing workforce.
And Bala, if I can add, CAs can add a tremendous value to any technology platform, because we as technologists get infatuated by the technology and the power of technology. But when it comes to creating compliance with the technology, we need that thinking process, because that many times get missed into the new system. And hence, a CA profession can add a tremendous value to any new platform being built, be it on RP or blockchain. So start thinking in line with the change, the fundamental change, because honestly speaking, the shift in the controls, the shift into the way audit happens, the books are being prepared is humongous. And both the sides, which is technology side as well as the CAs, all the capabilities on the controls, assurance, all those are needed to make a system future proof.
Yeah. What's your view
next
whether
is-
outsourcing industry will be disrupted due to AI, ML, and outsourcing from India will shut down? I doubt very much, because I think we have reached a stage where it's very difficult to sort of shut down India from an outsourcing as a destination. Whilst we'll continue to sort of expand here, we will probably be doing a lot of these, because all these automation, remember one thing, it needs maintenance. It needs people to sort of oversee, and it needs people to sort of meaningfully interpret the data. So therefore, it's not going to be completely eliminating humans. Whilst a lot of these mundane, repeatable processes are going to be automated, it is not going to sort of replace a human from that perspective. What will happen is that if you probably have today 100 people working on AP, you might not need 100 people to work on the AP. You might probably need only 20 people, but those 20 people are going to work primarily in terms of interpreting and providing that insight. So what happens to the 80? Then the 80 has to be repurposed to do something else, because there are going to be opportunities. Maybe another 20 might go into maintaining the technology, or they will be probably repurposed to do something else as part of the customer journey. So therefore, it's going to be only repurposed and rebalanced, and it's not going to just completely take away things. Because should automation take away jobs, I think by this time almost 50% of the world would be in unemployment. So it's not going to do that one.
Correct.
Okay, so this is a question for Bala sir.
Bala,
I
will
was seeing
share the link with this group on future of jobs. It's an article I wrote about the automation and how it is going to change the job. What will be the job of future? I'll just post it to the organizers, and they can share it with the larger group.
Okay, I'm a CA with 2 years experience, having Big Four audit experience. I want to change my career into this automation. Really inspiring. How can we win the race? So again, as I said, anybody can get into this automation world. Your CA gives you that functional strength, and the functional sort of angle to things, given that sort of you have a complete understanding of business, audit, financial statements, and also the risk and compliance angle to it, and also the tax angle built into it, I think you are a wholesome professional, and that adds a lot of significance in terms of when you're building an automation, because you can sort of see from every aspect of things, and your contribution will be a lot more valuable, given that sort of you are covering almost all significant angles from a business point of view. So question is, how do you get into that one? It's obviously, if you have the interest, you need to sort of work your way to the automation teams. And again, the question is, do you want to be a programmer coder to do the automation, or you want to be a functional expertise providing the guidance for them to sort of prepare? Certifications are ideally not required if you have a functional expertise, but having additional certifications, courses like data science, analytics, and those kind of stuff is not going to sort of take you or move you down in the ladder. It's only going to help you and enhance. So therefore, it's not one or two. It's a question of where your interests are, because each area is a area by itself. So therefore, you need to probably think carefully in terms of where you want to focus on. For example, if you are trying to focus on data and analytics, then you need to sort of focus on data analytics, because that itself is an ocean. Then you talk about industrial automation, then it's a different angle altogether, because that's primarily for production engineers, etc., where the machines have to be done doing things on its own. So the question is that where do you want to sort of do the automation, and where you want to focus, and that is the area where you probably have to go and spend time to understand that what you need to sort of build it. From a data and science, there are significant number of courses that are happening. Python, Hadoop, there are so many sort of open source that you can probably leverage from on the data science part of it. And given sort of a CA and your natural flair with numbers, that will probably sort of help you there. Okay. So Abhishek, you want to take this? Okay, so the next question is, okay, if we outsource the programming to someone else, how do we ensure we have control over the software? How do we address the risk of getting kicked out after the software is developed? Second, that's a IP. So you're talking about, Saket, the intellectual rights. So naturally, when you are trying to give some outsourcing somebody to program it, you're not going to give away your intellectual rights. So therefore, if you, as long as you are able to create a contract where you hold on to the IPR, you are protected from that perspective. So there's no question of you being kicked out. I'll give you from my practical experience. We do a lot of automations. When we do these things for Google, there's a clear sort of an MSA agreement between Google and us that whatever we build as part of our advisory or consulting engagement, we do it. The IP belongs to Google. So which means that Google will take over the IP and they will maintain the IP, because they need to continue with the IP despite, or whenever sort of KPMG gets out of the work and Google takes over the work, they will have to have the ownership of the IP, because otherwise the business gets disrupted. So it's a primary question for IPR. So as long as you own the IP and you make sure that sort of you have enough clauses to protect yourself, you are protected from that perspective. I'm a blockchain enthusiast. What are the opportunities available for CAs? Abhishek. Abhishek himself is a blockchain enthusiast.
So blockchain need lots of clarity, and it's evolving every day. And if you see what government of India came up with, only one paper in 2018 March, it was primarily about use of distributed ledger technology is not prohibited. However, use of cryptocurrency in terms of connecting that with the Indian economy, which is bank providing interface, is kind of prohibited in India. However, you can buy crypto if you have another bank account outside India. Now, this entire area needs so much of clarity to make it either mainstream or many other use cases. So I'll give you a simple example. Intercompany netting. If I deploy intercompany netting on a blockchain platform, and if a CA does thinking about behind the complete system, there will not be an issue of intercompany reconciliation required, which is the biggest issue today. Whenever you do, because intercompany contracts are on email, they are verbal, they are not written, and when you go back at the quarter end or the year end, there's always a mess, right? So the multiple use cases which CAs can come up with the blockchain technology use, and I'm not talking about crypto, neither I'm promoting crypto, but I'm saying a CA can think about this technology uses a lot more, because this is a fundamental shift in the change in the way we think about money, the way we think about transaction. There is no bank in the middle. There is no one who's authorizing the currency. It's just between two parties. So it's a big shift. We are going back to the barter system. Now in the barter system, what are the controls? So that can only come from a CA's brain point of view when it comes to the control in that technology. So huge scope, a big scope, more than happy to discuss.
The next question, Abhishek, where can we learn more about AI?
There are multiple platforms which are free. Now, if you look at, because of COVID, while we all are sitting at home, companies have flooded you just need to start searching. You will get it on YouTube, you will get it on Edureka, you will get it on Coursera. There are enough courses. So there is no dearth of learning opportunities. It's just, you have to simply just start finding, you will get it.
It's a question of, if you want to do certifications, then obviously you have to go through the institutes to get the certification. But again, if it's self studies, you have, as he said, there are a lot of places where you can do it.
Yeah.
Again, another
one more thing I would like to add that.
Sorry.
Yeah, Balu sir, one more thing I would like to add that Institute's Digital Learning Hub has got a lot of materials. I mean, a lot of courses on this technology front. There is a course on blockchain technology and accountancy. I request all people to log into your ICAI Digital Learning Hub. The login credentials are your SSPs one, your membership number at ICAI.org, followed by your password. You can go inside, and then there are a lot of courses available which you can kindly make use of those. Yeah, Balu, please continue.
No, another question for Abhishek. Blockchain replaces the double entry
Yes.
system. The statement sounds scary to an auditor. How an auditor?
It is indeed. No, it is scary because it's triple entry ledger. It has timestamp. It has authenticity. It actually takes care of the digital signature for each and every entry made into the system, and hence the way the future audit will happen on any blockchain system will be totally different.
Yeah. Okay, I think the next one is good comment. Potential, yeah.
So thanks, Balasubramaniam ji and Abhishek. In fact, the lot of questions, and you are able to kind of take us through as to how things stand today and how things will change tomorrow. So thank you so much for your valuable time, valuable inputs, and in future we'll invite you sometime to Chennai, where you can give us a live demonstration of all certain things and meet us also in person.
Thank you very much. It was a very enjoyable session, and thank the CA Institute. Being a member also, sort of again, it's a pleasure to be talking in front of all the CA friends. So therefore, good luck in whatever sort of career you're doing in, and wish ICAI all the luck. Thank you, Abhishek.
No, I think it was
Abhishek,
pleasure.
over to you for the announcement of thanks.
Abhishek. The questions validate that no one was dreaming, everyone was attentive, and the quality of questions itself is. I think I'm humbled. It was a very good session. Thanks a lot. Thanks everyone for fantastic questions.
Yeah, now over to Abhishek Murli to propose the vote of thanks and also make announcements.
Thank you so much, Chairman. Definitely want to thank both speakers for doing such a wonderful job. As Chairman very rightly said, and as Abhishek also pointed out, clearly from the questions you can tell how engaging the session was, because otherwise we would not get so many questions, so many relevant questions from the audience. And I think the credit goes to both of you for wonderful teamwork and wonderful presentation on a topic which you were able to bring all the way down to how a practitioner also can benefit out of it, etc. So that sort of approach that you gave was truly wonderful. I'd also like to thank our dynamic chairman, CA Jain. He's a technology man himself, so he is definitely a prime driver for this program. So thank you so much, Chairman. I'd like to end the program with a few announcements. We have a program on 28th and 29th of this month, 28th and 29th of October. It's a young mentorship program for professional opportunities for CAs. So it's a 2-day program. We have CA GB Modi and CA S Prabhudev Aradhya who will be joining us on these 2 days. We also have Mr. Rajiv Chawla. So we have 3 very, very reputed speakers who will be speaking. This is on 28th of October and 29th of October. It starts at 5 p.m. So I request everyone to please join in on both days. On 6th of November, we have a very, very important program, a V. Shankarayar Memorial Lecture. We have Manish Shankarayar, former Union Minister, who will be joining us in the program. His father was a chartered accountant and is a memorial lecture. And the speaker is going to be a very, very reputed speaker. I'm sure you're all aware of him. Dr. Subramaniam, the former Chief Economic Advisor for the Government of India, and he's currently a professor in the Ashoka University and Ashoka Center. So a very, very reputed speaker. I request everybody to please do register for the program. The seats are almost full. So please do register and join us for the future programs. We also have our regional conference planned for December. We'll be announcing the details very, very shortly, but do keep yourselves free for the 4-day first ever virtual program that we'll be having for the regional conference. So thank you all. I hope you had a good session, and I wish you all a good weekend and festivities ahead. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you all of you. Thanks, Abhishek.
Thank you.